I'm your host, Dan Turner. With me, as always, is my partner in crime, the Robin to my Batman, Jay Felicio. How's it going, Jay?
Going good. And, even though the Giants season isn't going great, I can at least say to you that we beat your Eagles. So that's the only thing I have going for me.
Congratulations. Keep the job, Gettleman. Keep the job.
No, that's a really bad thing. I don't want Dave.
No, you got to root for the victory. You got to root for the consequences of the victory. That's how it works. All right, with us today, making her podcast debut, it is Cooter Doodle from Twitter. How are you tonight?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Seahawks play. I'm pretty excited.
Absolutely. For once,
that is a fantastic. Let's show everybody.
Yeah, the Russell Wilson.
There it is.
Ugly sweater.
Fantastic. As much of a Christmas fan as you are, you and our buddy Mike and a couple other people, I'm sure they're loving that ugly Christmas sweater as well. So, although I wouldn't call it ugly with Russell Wilson on it, he's a pretty good-looking guy.
That's right. That's right.
For once, we actually have a good Thursday night game to look forward to.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah. All right, so let's get right to it. So we have a couple of viewer questions to start us off with today. Alex from Twitter has a couple. First thing off, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, or Juju Smith-Schuster? Jay, you want to start us off?
I mean, to be honest, right, the way that they're producing it, you can't really pick one week to week. I kind of see them all as floating around that wide receiver 2 value. And if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Johnson. I think he's the de facto number 1 in this offense. But, Chase Claypool's had those games, and Juju's turned it on here recently. Out of all, probably trust Johnson the most if he's able, but he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So I would rank them probably just like that. Johnson, Claypool, then Juju, but they all have a sky-high ceiling, but also a rock-bottom floor.
It's so crazy to think of who Juju was, and to say that, right? Like it's so weird to me every year.
Last year he was going in the, for 2-3 rounds. Everybody was with Antonio Brown gone. Everybody was so high on him, and he seems to be that guy that just can't handle that number 1 coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really hard to pick between the 3 of them. I think Deontay Johnson's the most consistent, I guess. Juju just fallen off the map. Juju is really a product of Antonio Brown. I think it's safe to pretty much say that right now. Without Antonio Brown around, he hasn't been anything like we thought he could have been with him. So I think in that respect, it's definitely Deontay Johnson. All right, Marty's coming in early with a question. Good to see you, Marty, as always.
Friend of the show.
Absolutely. PPR, Chase Edmonds, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Robert Woods. He needs 2.
Well, I think, isn't Helaire, didn't something happen? Is he injured or he's not?
I saw he didn't practice today.
Yeah.
I don't think it was just an illness. I don't know if hopefully it's not the Rona, but I did see that he didn't practice today. But let's just assume for the question.
Let's just assume for the question that he is.
He is. So there's no doubt I'm definitely going to go with CEH. Between Edmonds and Woods, it hasn't been quite the season everybody wanted, but with Drake back, Edmonds and Drake are back to split in the backfield. I'm going to have to go with Bobby Trees. So CEH and Bobby Trees for me.
Yeah, I'll support that. Woods was something more last year, and I would have to say, unless Drake has an injury, you really just have to go with those 2.
Agreed on both counts of both of you. I think that you're both correct in that. Thank you again for the question, Marty. Keep them coming.
We had another one right from Alex, you said?
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm getting there. All right. If Devontae Adams doesn't play, do you start Justin Jefferson or Amari Cooper?
Cooper, you want to start off this one?
Cooper, you can start off first.
For me, it really comes down to who's going to be at quarterback for the Cowboys, right? Amari in PPR, I don't know if he said that. Amari is not terrible. He's been doing decent. If Dalton, I can't remember, is Dalton back or he was practicing again?
It looks like he's going to start, but you're right.
He's scheduled to come back, I think.
Amari's been the one that's been affected the least out of any of the wide receivers. His numbers have gone down the least compared to Leonard and Michael Gallup.
Yeah, I think Jefferson's probably the safest pick. But Amari's not the end of the world. Like you said, he's consistent. He's not being affected as much. So,
yeah, I'm going to go with you too. And the simple thing is, even though I don't trust him a whole lot, I trust Kirk Cousins more than I trust Andy Dalton. And they're playing each other, so the Cowboys and the Vikings both have a pretty terrible defense. I wouldn't be surprised for both of them to have good games. But I lean Jefferson simply because I don't trust Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were playing the Cowboys. If that's the case, 100% Jefferson, because the Cowboys D is just not that's not happening.
As I like to say, there's no D in Dallas, just Alice now because they have no D.
Yeah,
It's
Jefferson. Giants fans and Eagles fans can agree on. So
absolutely, I think Jefferson is well on his way to if not supplanting Adam Thielen, then at least matching him in the pecking order there in Minnesota. So I think in that respect, for some reason, Cooper just hasn't been as good as he could be this year. Obviously, that injury plays a part in that, but Dalton seems
like CeeDee Lamb there too. He was
right, yeah.
Guy. It was him and Gallup. A talent like CeeDee Lamb in there, he's going to take away some production as well. So
right, exactly. Dalton seems to like going to the other guys more than Cooper. So for me, it's Jefferson in that respect. All right, so Jay submitted some questions for week 11. So we're going to run through those real quick. So number one, with the Drew Brees injury, what are the fantasy implications of Jameis Winston starting for the Saints? Cooter, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this one's close to my heart.
Absolutely.
So I have a follow-up question, but first I'll get to, I think there's some positives with this. He has an arm, right? Drew clearly has been having some issues with getting it deep. So I think that's a good thing for Michael Thomas. I think we could see some benefit to some of the other guys like Traquan Smith. But I just don't know. Is he going to throw it to our players or the cornerbacks? That's what I'm nervous about.
Yeah.
I think what they're really going to do, though, if I'm being honest, I think they're probably going to give him like some simpler plays. I don't know, like less options or whatever, which will be good. Hopefully they limit that to where he is making safer throws. He's not going to his second and third reads or whatever. But that's what I'm nervous about, really, more than anything. I think he's got the arm. I think he's got some talent. I'm still a little bitter because he was a Tampa Bay player, and that's one of our rivals. But I hope that we'll do better with him. What do y'all think?
Jay?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it could be a boost for this offense, fantasy-wise, not necessarily in real life. Like you said, Jameis, we know, loves to turn the ball over 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions last year. I do think it could be a boost for Jared Cook. We know that Jameis loves to throw to the tight end. I wouldn't be surprised to see them run the ball more, so it could be a boost for Latavius Murray as well. He could get some extra work. Alvin Kamara is a stud. He's going to do fine, but Jameis really isn't known for throwing it to running backs, so I wonder if his receptions are going to go down or not. So I give you credit because there's some Saint fans out there, I won't name names, but just refuse to admit that Drew Brees' arm isn't what it used to be.
It's not
saying not saying that he's not, he's a Hall of Famer, there's no question, but he is 27th in the league in intended air yards, 21st in completed air yards, and he's 10th in yards after the catch. So that tells me, the numbers don't lie. He's not getting the ball downfield. He's getting his production from yards after the catch, dumping the ball off to Alvin Kamara. So I think, fantasy-wise, it could definitely do wonders for this offense. Whether that's a good thing for the Saints in real life is another story.
Yeah. And then I also like the whole Jameis versus Taysom, right? I think I looked it up, and Taysom has been only so far, 1% of the passing attempts has been Taysom.
Okay.
But can we say it's 50-50? Some people are saying that. I don't see them doing 50-50 with Taysom. I think it's going to be more like a 70-75 Winston,
Yep, and Sean Payton has his love affair with Taysom, and unfortunately, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Taysom Hill in the red zone even more, which would be, would hurt Jameis Winston's value if Taysom's Hill in there running the ball, throwing the ball, doing what Taysom Hill does, getting 2 yards or getting sacked and turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you on that.
The counterpoint to that, though, is if they put Taysom Hill in the red zone, it means that Jameis can't throw an interception while he's in the red zone. So it might save his numbers that way.
Yeah,
also,
I like that.
Right? So also, I think that it's true that Jameis doesn't normally throw to running backs, but he's never had the caliber of running back that he has with Kamara. And the fact that he has a much lighter arm than Drew Brees maybe actually helps Kamara a little bit, because now the safeties and cornerbacks can't, go down into the box as much because he can throw it over the top. And Traquan Smith has some wheels. I mean, he hasn't done as much as people thought he would being in that offense, but he can still go deep and punish you if you're not careful. And people are acting like Michael Thomas. I know the slant thing is a whole big joke with him, but he's a complete receiver. He can go downfield and catch the ball if he needs to. So I think in that respect, that Kamara might be hurt, in the passing game, but rushing wise, him and Latavius Murray might get a benefit from that. And obviously Jared Cook, as you pointed out, Jameis loves his tight end. So I think all around it's definitely a net positive.
Now, speaking of Traquan, here's my worry. So when Michael Thomas was out weeks 2 through 8, Traquan's snap count never went under 78%. It was averaging like 85. And then I know it's only been 2 weeks, but with Michael Thomas back in, it was 62%, and then it dropped to 27%. So, is he just the Michael Thomas fill-in? That's my only worry. I would love to see, because I agree with you. I think he could do great. But with just those 2 weeks, it looks like they're clearly not going to utilize him when Michael Thomas is on the field as much. Mm-hmm. That worries me a little bit about him.
Yeah, I think it depends on if they let Jameis throw the deep ball. Say what you want about Jameis, but he can sling the ball. So if they, design some plays to try to get Traquan Smith down the field, then yeah. But like you said, it's we just don't know until we see it on the field. If they go conservative and try to run the ball and keep Jameis from doing Jameis things and handing out crab legs to everybody and turn it over to the other team, but we'll see what happens.
Should be handing out crawfish, man. To that point, though, I think that the snap count of Traquan Smith, and obviously I'm not a coach by any means, but it could be the fact that Emmanuel Sanders is there, and the fact that Drew Brees' just arm isn't as much as it could be. It just could be a victim of circumstance, because if that Drew Brees can't throw the deep ball as much as he used to be, then Traquan Smith obviously isn't being used to his full potential. So if Jameis is in there and he can throw the deep ball, then maybe you see Smith's snap count increase, because now there's a quarterback that can actually get him the ball down the field.
That's a good point. This week's going to be one of those where, I think people are going to really be tearing apart every stat from this just to see what's going to be happening forward with all these players. One of my follow-up questions that I had, though, I'm curious what you guys think. The over-under. So as of right now, the Saints have only had 3 interceptions. Okay. Mm-hmm. Over-under, we get 3 in 2 weeks.
I'm going to say under. I think it's going to happen this week.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
It depends what they do with the offense, but I don't, Sean Payton isn't the type of guy that's going to go conservative. So I definitely think I would not be surprised if they sling the ball, and if they let Jameis wild, he's going to get plenty of touchdowns, but he's also going to get plenty of interceptions.
That's what I was afraid of.
I disagree. I don't think he's going to throw as many interceptions as people think he is. I think that people, obviously, he had a big body of work in Tampa, but you also have to realize that Sean Payton is the best coach he's ever played for, and he's had a time to integrate in the system. I don't think that Payton's going to put him in those kinds of situations too much, where he's going to allow him to make those boneheaded throws into triple coverage where he gets picked. So I think just within the scheme of the offense, you won't see as many interceptions thrown by Jameis as people maybe are expecting him to throw.
I hope you're right.
Me too.
Yeah, what's up, Nate? We see you in the chat. Appreciate you tuning in. Another good guy from the fantasy community.
Absolutely. All right, Marty has another question, a trade question. Trade offer in his dynasty league. He receives Jared Cook, McKinnon, and a 2021 second-round pick for, I guess that's Deandre Swift. No, absolutely not.
Well, I agree, but also with his concussion, does that change your mind at all?
No.
No.
Okay.
Redraft, even then, it's
dynasty. It's dynasty.
Yeah, that's why I said if redraft, if you would listen and let me talk.
No. Answer the question, Jay.
Yeah,
here's about your hypotheticals.
Unless it's a crazy tight end premium or something like that, there's no way. Swift is. I've said it a few times on this show before. I think Swift is going to turn into Miles Sanders from last year and a league winner with the way that he's going to finish the season. So for me, there's no way I'd be giving up Swift.
It's unfortunate. I've been trying to get him in some of my leagues that haven't had the deadlines yet, and I just don't have enough. I don't have enough to pay up for it.
Yeah.
The winner to get him was a couple weeks ago when Adrian Peterson was getting all those carries and he was doing nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, unless you're starting, you have to start a conversation with the first round pick at least to even get me to look at the offer for Swift. Anything below that is not even, it's a non-starter.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. All right. Question 2 for Jay, as we await more viewer questions. Who would you rather have, I guess, rest of the season, Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson?
Well, to be honest, I have a feeling where Cooter might go because of her wonderful sweater. But that's like asking if you want bacon or pizza. Like, there's no wrong answer. I would be perfectly fine with either one of these guys. But I would lean Kyler Murray. Adam Schefter tweeted out an interesting stat right before we went on, and I thought it was perfect for this. Through 9 games, Kyler Murray's on a better pace than Lamar Jackson was last year. 27 touchdowns to Lamar Jackson's 21, and he's thrown for almost 3,000 yards, or excuse me, a total 3,000 yards already. And one thing, at this point in the season, you got to look ahead to the playoffs. And Russell Wilson, championship week, plays the Rams that just shut him down for less than 10 points. And they are the toughest matchup for opposing quarterbacks. So for me, that's the difference. They're that when you're threading the needle this close with guys who are they're number 1 and number 2 in points per game for quarterbacks. Those are the little differences that put you over the top.
Now, does this change your mind at all? Russell Wilson's completion percentage is 69%.
Nice.
No, I'm going to still have to go with Kyler on that one.
Yeah, I mean, if he wasn't so good, if he wasn't so good on his feet, I mean, for me, it would be 100% Russell. But it is really close to call. For me, it's just more my heart's in it for Seattle. But yeah, I mean, when you look at his rushing touchdowns, they're nearly his passing at this point. I think maybe I'm wrong. Let me see. No, he has 17 passing, 10 rushing. But I mean, that's incredible.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll go Russell with my heart, but I could see either way.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you, Jay, unfortunately. I think it is close. I mean, Russell's been on an MVP tear this season, but Kyler's he's doing it quietly. He's not getting anywhere near, I think, the kind of attention that Lamar was getting last year doing with this kind of pace. I mean, 10 rushing touchdowns by a quarterback at this point is absolutely crazy. Like I blew my mind, and I heard that stat too. So I think it's close, but and I think also Kyler has the better, receiver. I think Hopkins is a little bit better right now than DK. So, and Hopkins is just
Kirk has been playing out of his mind too, So
yeah, exactly.
And, what was I going to say? The thing about Lamar versus Kyler when it comes to the hype, the draft capital you had to use for Kyler this year, and that's the only reason I don't have him. I felt like the draft capital was too high that you had to spend for him. He had to have this type of season in order to be worth where he was going in drafts. Last year, Lamar Jackson was an 8th, 9th, 10th rounder, depending on what type of league you were in. He was a mid to late rounder. So that's where I feel like that's why you're not getting as much hype around Kyler. You will now after that ridiculous game-winning catch by Deandre Hopkins. But Lamar came out of nowhere. There was already a little bit of hype preseason for Kyler.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Like, there's something where we can never get out of our head the narrative of where we picked people at. Yep. And it's always going to be those ones at the lower rounds when they do the same as the others, where we won't stop talking about it because it came out of left field. I know there were people before last season that were hyping up Lamar's a sleeper, get him, because that was the reason I got him.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't a consensus,
Yep, I have a lifelong love now for Lamar Jackson. I was all in on him last year, and he won me my
home league. League winner. Yeah,
he won me my league as well. My home league. Yeah,
that man made me a lot of money. I've got a Lamar Jackson jersey. He's forever. I'm forever in his debt. So
he can have a bad year this year. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a good point, Cooter, that you talk about. Like, everyone loves the fact that people get that steal in the later rounds, but then as soon as you can get them at value, they don't care about him anymore. They're looking for the next guy they can get in the 12th round is going to win. It's unfortunate. Yep. They're still valuable people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the danger you go when Lamar Jackson, to be worth where he was getting drafted, he would have to repeat what he did last year, and that's near impossible. So I think it's a cautionary tale that you don't take guys at their peak value. The name of the game is getting value. Mm-hmm. So that's why in places I didn't already have Lamar, I don't think I got a single additional share because of that.
Yeah, you can never. That's, I think, the number one, not the number one, but top 3 rule in fantasy is never draft guys at their peak.
Yep.
All right, we have another question. Probably going to botch this name. Ian Kelly. Rebuilding. Yeah, we'll go with that. Rebuilding in a 12-team PPR, he traded Lamar and Juju for Dak, DK Metcalf, a first, and a second. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's phenomenal. Lamar at this point, if Dak was still playing, Dak probably still has more. Dak still has more points than like 4 or 5 quarterbacks I saw.
Yeah.
I would rank Dak ahead of Lamar. You definitely rank DK ahead of Juju, plus the first and second. Absolutely, I think that's a fantastic deal.
I was about to say, even without the picks, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, me too. I'm right there with you.
So you just stole something, Kelly. You got it.
100% agree with both of you guys. Like even without the picks, just getting Dak and then DK Metcalf is so far and away better than Juju is at this point. It's just ridiculous. And then the first and second is just icing on the cake. So good job on that deal. Rebuilding, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't blame him for asking though, because sometimes when you get something that's too good to be true, you have to be like, can you confirm that I'm not crazy here?
Is this really what's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Is this real life?
And it's definitely hard what Lamar did last year to deal him away. I contemplate it in a few places. I think he's going to bounce back. I don't think he'll ever be what he was last year. He took the NFL by storm, but he's not, and he's still not doing that bad. He hasn't had those blow up games that he was having last year.
Yeah. I think 2 things. I think one, because of Dak injury, that's probably why they're worried about that trade, because of Dak being hurt if he's going to go back at 100%. I think the league's kind of figuring out that Lamar just isn't that great of a thrower.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see last year in the playoffs.
Throwing outside, he just can't do it.
Yeah, there are ways to scheme him out of him throwing comfortably, and he's pretty much like beat. So while he still, is a good quarterback and stuff, unless he can develop as a passer, he's not gonna do well moving forward.
I'm gonna have to move a different room.
No problem. Do what you gotta do. No worries.
I don't know if y'all see it on your end, but it's telling me that. So.
All good. No worries.
No problem.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ian. We're butchering your name. Is it Ian? Like you would say IAN? But yeah, I think Dak's injury, I think he's going to be fine. And it happened early enough in the season. They said he should be fine for week 1 as long as there's no infection. And I don't think there was. So, with CeeDee Lamb, I think they said that they might move Gallup, but he's going to have plenty of weapons. Dak's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and his tight end should be back too. His tight end got hurt earlier in the year too.
Yeah. Was his boy, right? What's his name? Was the tight end that got hurt? Owen. Oh. Okay, it's gay. Okay, now we know. Huh? That's pretty cool. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. All right. Apologies for absolutely completely destroying that name.
Trust me. Look at my last name; it gets butchered all the time. So
I'm Irish, so that's a double shame on me.
Oh, there you go. So where are we at now?
Number 3 is Deandre Swift, a running back 1. Jay, want to start us off?
Well, this was I saw the unfortunate news that he's got a concussion and is potentially not going to play. But for the sake of argument, let's just say that he's going to play this week. Regardless, I think he's a running back 1 for the rest of the year. The only concern, he's been producing all year when he's getting the touches, but Detroit decided they were going to sign 180-year-old Adrian Peterson and give him more touches than the running back they drafted, which I don't get. I think it said more about Kerryon Johnson than it did about Deandre Swift. But if he's able to play, I think he could potentially be the RB1 for the week. I think he's going to be top 10, top 5 potentially. Whereas the Panthers are terrible against the run. They've given up the fourth most points to opposing running backs. They've allowed 14 rushing touchdowns on the season. Stafford's banged up. They said he's going to play, but he's got a thumb injury. So I don't see them airing out the ball. And the Panthers have played decent against the pass, but I think that's more of one of those things. It's because they've been so terrible against the run. Nobody's had to pass the ball. But he's scored double digits in 7 of 9 games. He had a season high 16 carries last week. He had 81 yards, caught all 5 of his targets for 68 yards and a touchdown. I think he's going to be a league winner. I said it earlier. And if people have been watching every episode so far, Dan and I said it a few episodes ago. I said, get DeAndre Swift now. He's going to be Miles Sanders of this year. And so far, so good. If he's able to shake off this concussion, I think he's got a great schedule coming up, and I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. It's especially in this year when running backs are so scarce. I mean, it's so hard to come by a running back right now. So if you could keep him, if he's healthy, he's definitely an RB1.
I agree with both of you. I think between the concussion and his idiotic coaching staff, if they could just give him the ball, then he'll be a running back one easily in that kind of offense.
Typical old guy from Bill Belichick's coaching tree. The only one that seems to be worth anything is Brian Flores in Miami. Everybody else does what they do, and it's the Bill Belichick system and not the guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, like, I don't know.
I like Joe Judge, I got to say. I like what he's doing so far.
I don't know the coaches that well, but you have to wonder, like, is it anything to do with they were just trying to get as much use as they could out of AP? I mean, he's older, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, try to get some, because he's getting close to a couple of Barry Sanders records, I believe. So I'm sure they wanted him to do that in a Lions uniform, and to, you know, keep Deandre Swift healthy for the stretch run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Gary just said, I stepped away, and now Crudoodle has an entire different background. I might go to a different room in my house.
It's magic.
Just want to keep on your toes. That's why you don't turn away. You got to stay and watch the whole time so you know what's going on.
Yep, he'll never know now. He'll always be wondering what happened.
The plot thickens. I wish you would move to a different room, Jay. That flag behind you is awful.
Yeah, you know. They beat your Eagles. Daniel Jones,
for
the first time in 4 years. It had to happen eventually.
Wayne Gallman. What does that say about the Eagles?
They suck.
Exactly. There you
and
go.
Your GM is going to stay employed, so win-win for me.
Can while we're talking about Gallman, since you're such a fan, can you give me some insight on him, because I have him in a couple leagues? How are you feeling? At least this week, next week?
I think he's you know, he's basically free. He's decent enough. That's why as much as I love Saquon Barkley, I wish that they wouldn't have drafted him so high, because Gallman, I think, would be decent enough. You know, he was good at, I believe he came from Clemson. He was productive back in college. I was excited about him. And then they took Barkley the next year. I think in this crazy thing we call fantasy football in 2020, you could do a heck of a lot worse. I think he scored a touchdown like 3 straight games or something like that.
Yeah, he's been good the last few.
Devonta Freeman, he looked a lot better than Freeman did. And Freeman just can't stay healthy. It's been the story of his career the past couple years. So let me see. You know, he's Gallman has double-digit points in the past 4 weeks. He scored 5 touchdowns in the past 4 weeks. So they've got Cincinnati, Seattle, Arizona. Cleveland. The only tough matchup is going to be Baltimore in Week 16. But if you're lucky enough to get there Week 16 with Wayne Gallman on your team, then you're doing all right.
I'm taking personal offense to that, but thanks.
I'm not going to make the playoffs in my most important league, so.
Oh, it's rough out there, man. This year, I've been playing for 6 years, I believe. We're 2020. I think it's been 6 years straight. And every year, I've never been in more than 3 leagues, and I've always won at least one of them. And this year, I'm in 4, and I don't know. I can't even confirm that I'll be in the playoffs in any. Like, it's that bad out there this year.
Yep.
I'm in more leagues than I would like to admit publicly this year, but I want to say, I've been playing,
say the number.
It's probably close to 20 something, I think.
How many did you tell your wife?
Charity leagues. She doesn't want to know. She said, but I don't want to know. She said, that's your thing. She said she didn't mind last year because I won a good close to $3,000 because of our boy Lamar Miller. So she was perfectly fine last year. But I'm going to streak of probably 7 or 8 years where I've won at least one league, and it could come to an end this year with the devastating injuries I've had.
What's your biggest buy-in?
$200.
Oh, okay. You won $3,000.
Well, I won like 8 leagues last year, so a couple another one that was another 100. And in the one that's 200, we also do weekly awards, which if you're looking at a way to keep everybody involved the year long, that's been a big difference for us. So basically, the 150 goes to the pot, and then we do the extra 50 goes for awards. So the high score player each week, the high score team each week gets $10, and then we do season long high score team and high score player gets $100, and I won like an extra $400 of that thanks to Lamar Miller. So
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
definitely not Lamar Miller.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jackson. Yeah, I might have to look into doing that because we have a few leagues that, like, right now around this time, the chats kind of dry up, and it just doesn't become what it used to be. Their hopes are kind of dwindling. So that might be the way to do it.
Yeah, I've implemented that same system where weekly payoffs for highest scoring team, and that definitely works, keeping everyone involved. Because like in past years, you said once you get around like now, like week 10, 11, and people know they don't have a shot, they're just done and half the league's over with.
Yeah, and that's the way to spread around. Normally, when you don't have a guy going off like Lamar Jackson did last year, normally it's a way for everybody to get a little bit of money back. Even if you're having a bad season, you can have a guy go off for a week and make a little bit back at least.
And for me, it's wanting to keep people active too. That way the winners aren't the only ones doing waivers. I mean, because then you're really just kicking people while they're down. You want everybody to be active on waivers too.
Yeah, and like we were talking about before the show started, we do a punishment in my home league, the one that's most important to me, and that is easily the best way to keep people involved. We do playoffs for the teams that don't make the playoffs, the losers playoffs. And if you lose week 15, we push it to week 15. So everybody has to sweat an extra week. And then if you lose, you go to the championship. And if you lose again, then you have to do the punishment. And honestly, like I was telling you guys, if people worry more about not being last place and having to do that punishment than actually winning.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys follow him, but my friend in real life, it's just Ego on Twitter. Y'all should follow him. He knows more about football than I do. But he is the commissioner of my most active, most competitive home league. And that's the one where every year me and him are in these chats and we're like, what's the punishment going to be? We propose it to our group and then we don't get maybe half or oh yeah, that sounds good. So if we can just get them to agree, that really would just sell the league.
It's so much fun.
You need better players in your league. That's what you do.
Yeah. Well, that's one where we always have a new one rotating. It's so hard to keep that 12 roll, solid. Mm-hmm. Everyone else has stayed, but you always have a floater.
Absolutely. All right, got another question from Owen. Now I got the name right. It's a fellow Giants fan, Jay. Is Dan Jones there for the long term?
That is a very good question that I wish I knew the answer to. I do think he's shown enough lately, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, that they're going to give him another shot. I would like to see what he can do. He still has yet to have a game where he's had all of his weapons completely healthy. We don't have an alpha wide receiver. Golden Tate is old and he plays the same type of role that Sterling Shepard plays. Ingram has Butterfingers, and Barkley was, he got shut down by the Steelers defense week 1, then he got hurt. So I do like the way that the offensive line's progressed the past couple weeks. And I've said this all along, and I'm a Duke fan too, so I was excited to get Daniel Jones. I don't like how high we took him. I don't mind having him. I feel like he is an Eli Manning clone. And regardless of what Dan likes to say about Eli Manning, he does have 2 Super Bowl rings and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Just remember that. So if we can
it's hard to remember.
It is hard to remember because there were some ugly years. But if we're able to get, I would like to see them use a high pick on a wide receiver next year. We need that alpha wide receiver. Sterling Shepard's not number 1. If we could have Shepard on one side, Slayton too. I love Slayton, but he's not an alpha dog. I would love to see Slayton, Sterling Shepard, and a guy like what's his name from LSU, Chase. Jamar Chase. I would love that. So I think he can be. I don't think he's going to be that guy that carries the team like Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson, but I think he can do enough to win with a solid team around him. Danny Nichols, that's a good one. More like Danny Pennies.
Danny Nichols. And listen, I admit that Eli won the Super Bowls. I'm just asking you what he did the rest of his career, but you just can never seem to answer that question. What did he do? What happened?
Eli Manning has more championships than your franchise. Okay, just remember that.
You're just not going to answer the question again. So.
He has a really cool brother.
He does. Yeah. Hey, he hosted SNL as well. So there you go.
Oh, really?
Eli Manning was on there once. So not as funny as Peyton. I'll admit that.
Not that anyone remembers that because the episode sucked.
I remember it because it was after they won his 2nd Super Bowl. You can remember that game.
Was that the last one?
Yeah 2012. That was.
I mean, I can't talk. The Saints have been a little further away, but
At least Drew Brees actually won his Super Bowl though, and then he used defense to win it for him.
yeah.
Anyway, okay, Marty has another question.
That touchdown.
So Dallas Goedert or Tim Patrick? Jay, I'll start with you.
Who does Denver play this week? You know what? I'm gonna go Goddard simply because isn't what's his name? Linda would be so mad right now. I can't think of his Drew Lock. Isn't Drew Lock hurt? So it could be Jeff Driscoll or Ripien.
Yeah.
And Judy's really turned on as of late.
Broncos play the Dolphins today.
What's that? Broncos. Well, there you go. The Dolphins defense has been phenomenal. I think that Goddard has a pretty solid matchup. We were talking about it last night. Cleveland, right? Is that who they're playing?
Yes.
Yeah, Cleveland, who is abysmal against the tight end. So I would definitely go with Goddard.
So I know y'all know the Twitter, community. Troy King had put up a little post. They have a side bet between him and Linda about Miami versus. Did you see how bad? Like people love Linda, but they were still like Miami.
Yeah, I asked Troy. I said, "So you have to give up some points or something too, right? Because nobody would in their right mind take Denver straight up the way Miami's playing." But
yeah, but you have to go to the question.
Yeah. I mean, I love Linda, but damn, that was rough.
We got to give her this. She doesn't give up. She loves them at their worst and at their best.
That's it. Yeah.
That moment in the video where you said "ooh trash" and picked it up, and that was phenomenal. You guys haven't seen that video. Do you still have that pinned on your page?
Oh no, I'd have to go find it.
I was dying. Oh my God.
Dude was playing Linda Lyons, and I don't know what league it is, but had a fantastic trash talking video. It was absolutely hilarious. So I won't spoil any of the rest of it for you, but you need to go out and watch that.
Yeah, I'll find it. It was one of those things that, you just got to trash talk. It makes things more interesting. So
that's it.
Ooh. Did you see what Owen said about those punishment last year?
Yes.
Punishment for last place was 11 slaps of a wooden spoon. Loser survived 2 before we agreed it was too brutal.
Oh God.
Not far from blood. Wow. I might have to use that for not this year because I could be last place, but maybe next year.
When you're still last place?
Good. Ours is more about humiliation versus physical pain, but I kind of like that one.
I'd rather break them emotionally than
Yeah.
physically.
It's much more fun emotionally because it lasts longer.
Yeah.
Our second year, the guy had to sing "Total Eclipse of the Heart," which is like an 8-minute song in a goat costume in a karaoke bar. So that was pretty brutal.
Jesus.
We have a guy that never paid up on one of his bets. He was supposed to do Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You."
Oh, fantastic!
And he's one of the guys that he is not embarrassed by anything. And every week in our group chat, we're still waiting. This is last season. We're still waiting. So that's not fun.
No, can't have that. All right, another question from Jason. Would you trade AB and Robinson? I'm guessing, is it Allen Robinson or James Robinson? I'm not sure.
Yes, clarify if you can for us, Jason.
Yeah. Jason, is it Allen? Yeah, okay, so we'll go to the other Jason.
Jason Scott Nestor from Facebook.
Yes, 3D Adams, DJ Moore. If Bridgewater doesn't play, Mike Williams, Hollywood, Rager, or Higgins. Needs 3.
Oh, he needs 3. I was gonna say I love Higgins.
Yeah, I say definitely Higgins and Rager stand out for me,
Mm-hmm.
and you just can't trust Hollywood at this point. I love the Ravens. I've told you, I've got a man crush on Lamar Jackson, but you just simply can't trust Hollywood. So I'd definitely go Mike. Yeah, and okay, so yeah, for me, Mike Williams, Rager, and Higgins.
Yeah, and didn't Williams have some pretty big weeks recently, right? I mean, he's been trustworthy.
He played last week, but yeah, he's did you guys see that brutal haircut that Herbert got?
Oh my God!
Yeah,
he looks like he's in middle school now.
It's sad.
I posted a picture of him. He looked like one of the guys from Ed, and Eddie.
He does.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, and that's definitely one of those that sounds better, works out better in theory than it does in practice. So Mike Williams, I'm going to pull him up real quick. Yeah, so last week he only had 5 points, but week before that he had 13. 21 points the week before that. Week 5 against somebody's favorite New Orleans Saints. He had 27.9 points.
That hurts.
So he's definitely had some big games, but he's definitely got a low floor too. So
yeah, I just feel like if you came down to who are you going to flex, because obviously you're doing, like you said, Higgins, you're doing Rhaegar. You can't trust Brown over Williams, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and yeah, that's the whole point. That's what. Yeah, it doesn't matter if the punishment worked out or not. You got the memory and you got the video, so that's why we do all this, anyways. So.
But if Devontae plays, you have to play him if he's questionable. If he ends up playing,
he's one of those guys that no matter what the situation, you play him.
When we talked about earlier how when you draft someone, you have this memory you can't get rid of, like that.
Yep.
So I got Devontae Adams in a lot of leagues last year, first round, and because he got injured and he didn't do much for me this year, I wrote him off, and so I've shot myself in the foot this year. And I'm trying to tell myself next year, just go in with fresh eyes. Don't,
I feel bad about that too. It's so hard. It's so hard to get over it when a guy burns you like that.
Oh, I write them off.
I've gotten better about it. I used to be where, if you screw me one year, you're dead to me. I don't want anything to do with you, but I've gotten better, but it's still, you're not alone. That happens to all of us.
That was me and Keenan Allen a couple of years ago when he always got hurt that one year. And I was like, forget it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, in my head, Keenan Allen, I'm like, oh, trash, but he's not. But I'm just like you. I'm like,
exactly.
He's done too much to me.
Twitter said that it was Allen Robinson.
All right, so then it was AB and Allen Robinson for Josh Jacobs and Booker.
This one to me more has to do with your overall team, right? Like, what are you working with?
Right. If you need a running back, then I'd go with it, because really you're trading 2 players for one, regardless of what Dan likes to say about Antonio Brown. He's at least contributing some. So Jacobs is the best player in this trade, and I'm a running back heavy guy. I know the trend is past couple of years has been 0 running back, but I go running back early and often. So for me, if you need a running back, I'd go with the Jacobs side. If you're thin at wide receiver, I'd hang on to AB and Robinson, but I like the Jacobs side simply because I like running backs are more consistent.
And honestly, I mean, Tampa Bay, I know we were going to potentially talk about them, but Tampa Bay, I think, has a good rest of season just for the sake of their clicking with Antonio. They're clicking with Gronk. I mean, their offense, I believe, at least a few days ago, I don't know about this weekend's games, if I saw it before or after, but they were the top scoring team in the NFL, So their offense is really clicking on top of they've already been doing really great. So if I had AB and if I was you and I didn't have like some solid people to fill in, it would be hard to kind of pull the trigger on that trade, I think.
Yeah, and they got an awesome playoff schedule. Minnesota, Atlanta, and Detroit. And Tom Brady is the type of guy that holds a grudge, and he's going to make happen what he wants to happen just to prove a point. And it's obvious that he's forcing the ball to Antonio Brown.
Oh, yeah.
So I think he's going to do better than, he's not going to be Antonio Brown of a few years ago, but he's going to be productive.
Yep.
Now, one thing to remember, too, is Tampa Bay still hasn't had their bye yet. They're one of the Panthers and Tampa Bay have the Week 13 bye. I don't know who came up with that idea at the NFL, but that's one less game you get of a guy. So if you are, right on the cusp of the playoffs and you could be playing Week 13, you're not going to have Antonio Brown, playing in Week 13 to make the playoffs. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to point out that they've had a lot of touchdowns, but they had 0 against, or at least Tom Brady had 0 against the Saints. So I just want to point that out there real quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think for this year, with the state that running backs in, where pretty much everyone is basically toast, you had to pick up Jacobs. Jacobs is one of the only ones that both has, gets most of the carries and has been pretty much healthy the whole year. So just on that alone, I have to take the Jacobs side. And no, I don't trust AB for anything. You're right.
Mike, what's up, man?
What's up, Mike?
Friend of the two.
Absolutely. We love Mike. Jason also has a 2-parter. Logan Thomas or Austin Hooper in PPR?
Let's see. Logan Thomas actually had a pretty solid game last week. Let's pull him up.
I definitely go Austin Hooper because the Eagles linebackers suck massive amounts of.
Well, hey, this is a family-friendly show. Watch
that thing.
Uh-huh.
just suck a massive amount. Period. So any tight end is going to do well against him. So I'll definitely go Austin Hooper in PPR this week.
I don't know, man. I'm going to go with Logan Thomas. The Bengals give up the second most points to opposing tight ends, and I just don't trust Austin Hooper. He had an awesome season for Atlanta last year, but he's been extremely up and down. He's only had 3 games a season over double digits, so I couldn't trust him. Even in a good matchup.
And keep in mind too. I mean, we play Atlanta how many times a year? The Saints. So I mean, we know their stuff. We hopefully can hold them. We held Tampa Bay, so
yeah, no doubt. So yeah, for me, I'm definitely going to go Logan Thomas over Hooper.
All right, Cooter, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to for me. I think I'm hoping I'm still on the high of the Saints holding our other division rival to almost nothing with Tampa Bay, who I think Tampa Bay is probably our biggest. It's going to be rough because they're like right on our tail. We're 7-2, and I think they might be 7-2 or close to it. So I'm hoping that we can hold Atlanta. But yeah, I would have to go Logan Thomas, I think.
All right. Marty has another question. He needs one: Mike Williams, Jacoby Myers, or T. Higgins?
That's a good question. Would you thought a few weeks ago that you'd be wondering Jacoby Myers or T. Higgins? He's been killing it as of late. He's got a ridiculous amount of targets.
But to be fair, 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't think about starting Salman Ahmed on the Dolphins for running back either, but here we are.
That's 2020 in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. For me, it's not Mike Williams. It's between the other two.
Yeah,
I think Myers is going to be your highest ceiling. I don't know if you agree. I think he's probably your highest ceiling. And then consistency would probably be Higgins.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Myers is definitely the boom option there. But if you need like a floor, not that Higgins couldn't do really well, but with Tyler Boyd there's more options in that offense than there are in New England.
Higgins was banged up. I don't know if he practiced today. If as long as Higgins is in, I'm going to go with him, even though it's a tougher matchup. Washington gives up the second fewest points to wide receivers. Yeah, he was held out with an illness. So as long as it's not the coronavirus, so maybe it was just a day off stomach or something like that. But he's just been so consistent. He's literally had double-digit points every week since week 3. So he's if you need consistency, T. Higgins, and as Jacoby Myers is getting the targets, but it's ugly, man. Cam Newton's only thrown he threw a touchdown this past week. That was his first one since week 3. So he's getting, especially if it's not. Did he say PPR or not?
No.
Well, Marty, you need to be a little more specific there, bud. Come on, man, you're better than that. But I know Marty, he doesn't play in standard league, so I assume it's PPR.
Where's the standard league you speak of?
Yeah, exactly.
Never heard.
I'd go Higgins myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cam's gameplay is finally catching up to his outfits. It's just both so ugly. It's just terrible.
Gladys, who hosts the Sunday show and is also on. Oh, Rashard Higgins.
Oh, then it's Myers.
Okay, Myers. Yeah.
Yeah, Gladys had a good point. Myers had 40% target share. Thanks for that tip, Gladys. Then it's definitely Myers. Yeah, it's no question.
And Gladys is on the Sunday War Room and the Monday War Room. Check it out. She's awesome, and everybody else. She hosts on Sunday, and then she's on Monday as well.
All right, so that makes it easier. It's Myers. All right, we got a question from Dirko Miser 2. Needs to start 2 running backs: Mike Davis, Carlos Hyde, Ahmed, and Balaj. Jesus.
I mean,
run those names back again.
Mike Davis, Carlos Hyde, Ahmed, and Balaj.
My gut says Hyde and Davis.
Yeah, I go there too.
I'm definitely going Davis. You're the best, Gladys. I just don't know. Is Hyde definitely playing, did they say?
Hyde is playing. Something is playing.
Carson's out.
Carson's out, and Alex Collins is not playing.
Okay. I was going to say, if Alex Collins was playing too, I could see him going with a 3-headed monster. Yeah, I'm going to go with you guys on that. I think that's probably the best bet, especially in what hopefully is a good game and could potentially be a shootout.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed. All right, another question from Owen. Is Logan Thomas a hold in Dynasty? He currently has Njoku and Drew Sample, and he'll get Kyle Pitts next year in 12-team PPR. Is Logan Thomas a hold?
I wouldn't necessarily. Yes and no. I wouldn't say if somebody's willing to give you something of value for him, then by all means. I wouldn't be looking to sell him because I don't think he's anything special. There was a lot of hype around him in the offseason. He's had some solid games, but he's not somebody that I'm looking to actively get rid of. But if somebody came knocking with a fair offer, I wouldn't mind trading him away. Wow, is he 30 really? Our guy Mike coming in with the extra information for us. Wow, if he's 30, then get rid of him.
He sucks.
Yeah, and that's true too, Mike. He does suck.
What do you think? Who do you think? Is he a hold?
I'm in this weird position. I'm just starting a dynasty, a late season startup dynasty, so I'm not as familiar with that kind of stuff. I don't know how valuable it is to keep a tight end to begin with. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'll just trust you guys on that.
Yeah. I think what Jay said, if you can get something for him, then sure. But otherwise, he's a starting tight end on a team, so I would stick around with him. All right, we have a Scott Fishbowl question from our good buddy Mike. Alex Smith or Jameis Winston? Let's go to the Saints.
I feel bad for you, man. That's rough.
Okay, so God, I think this. Is he talking about starting him?
Yeah.
Starting it?
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Jameis Winston, and remember it's Scott Fishbowl, so. You get negative incompletions. You get negative, the interceptions.
Oh, God.
I can start Jameis and Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah, I mean, that's brutal. I do agree. Like Dan said, I don't think the interceptions are going to be as horrific with the Saints because they know what he did. They're going to review the tape. They're going to make sure those mistakes don't happen, But it's just too.
So maybe he can see better now.
But it's just too scary to start Winston. I mean, it's just too scary to me.
And Alex Smith has played decent. He's thrown for over 300 yards both games. Wow, he threw the ball 55 times last game. If I have to choose between one of those two, I would go Alex Smith simply because I know you guys don't think so, but I just don't trust old crab legs not throwing some picks. So he's still Jameis. And so maybe, it could be the LASIK really does wonders. That would be the best advertisement for LASIK ever.
Yeah.
He goes out and starts lighting it up and doesn't throw interceptions. But as heavily penalized as interceptions are, I can't.
You got to go with the person who's proven to be more composed in the pocket and not going to just throw the ball randomly.
I think you guys make some really good points, but I'm gonna have to disagree. I think you go Jameis. You know what? It's Scott a fishbowl. You put Jameis in there, you roll the dice, go for it. He probably is gonna. I mean, honestly, there's only two ways this is gonna go with Jameis. He's either gonna throw 5 interceptions and get negative 10 points, or he's gonna get you 40 points and throw 6 touchdowns.
5 interceptions would be more like negative 50 in Scott Fishbowl, especially sixes.
I
like what Ian said. He said, "Play it safe and pick up Taysom Hill."
Oh God.
Yeah.
Flex if he has wide receiver tight end eligibility.
Yeah, and ESPN he's got QB and tight end eligibility. I wouldn't mind throwing Taysom Hill as tight end the way it looks.
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go Jameis. I think that his supporting staff is obviously excellent. I think that he's had enough time in the scheme with Peyton that he's not going to be the disaster that some people are making him out to be. And Alex Smith has done well, but it's still Alex Smith. So, I mean, can we really?
It's awesome to see him on the field, no matter who you're a fan of. They literally thought he could die, and then 2 years later, be starting again in the NFL.
That's great.
I know.
They might as well just. It's obvious he's going to be comeback player of the year, and they should name him after him as well.
Now, Dan, how confident are you? Because if you're willing, I would like to do a side bet. If Jameis Winston scores more in SB, whatever that league, I'll shave my beard. If not, you shave yours. How about that?
I don't have you. I can't grow a beard anyways. So we'll do that bet. That works.
It's really safe for us.
Do it.
I'll shave my beard.
There you go.
Wait, so are you picking Alex Smith because you picked him, or not taking Jameis Winston, or are you taking Jameis Winston?
I'm taking Alex Smith. You're taking
All right.
Jameis Winston.
All right.
You're right. I messed that up.
You did. You messed up.
It's almost like my heart knows that Jameis is going to do okay.
But yeah, I'll take that back. It'll be fun. Or we have Mark from Facebook has a question. What players do you like tonight for Seahawks and Cardinals? So this is a good segue for our Thursday night sleeper.
There you go.
See that? Look at that segue. It was awesome.
I was waiting for it. That was pretty good. I gave you impressed.
All right. So basically this, we pick the Thursday night game and pick a sleeper that maybe isn't, a really well-known name or someone that isn't, a must start, and see if he can produce for your fantasy team this week. So Jay, who do you have for this
I went
week?
with David Moore, even though Dan doesn't think this is a good enough sleeper. Tyler Lockett, I just looked it up before we started talking about it. He is going to play. But being a short week, the way he's banged up, I would not be surprised to see him play limited snaps. And as bad as these defenses are, I think it's going to be a shootout. And David Moore's produced pretty decent this year. He's had some good games. So I think that if they let Russ cook, which he probably will tonight, especially as bad as he looked last week, he could easily score a touchdown or two.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say he's consistently had like 3 to 6 receptions, and I looked at it earlier, but I mean, it wasn't like he hasn't been at all an option. He's done some work. He's done a little bit.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the path 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 out of 9 games this season, he's had at least 3 catches. So, he's got a pretty safe floor. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 games with double-digit points. So, he's
with all the guys being in there. I mean,
with Tyler Lockett going clear and DK Metcalf being just a man amongst boys.
Yep.
All right, Cooter, who did you have for your sleeper?
Well, I don't know if I define sleeper like y'all do, I guess. But originally I had Alex Collins, and then that didn't work out. I had him starting in a league, and I didn't realize until earlier this afternoon that he's not going to be eligible. That's okay. It worked out. I switched it up the last minute. So I don't know. I'm willing to completely agree with what Jay's saying. I think they're going to run the ball, absolutely. But I think it's just too juicy for them to not pass it all day long. And so he's probably going to be the best chance at somebody who's not on someone's radar, potentially getting a touchdown and some yardage. And if you're in PPR, I mean, he'll get you something.
All right. For me, I'm going to go with Freddie Swain, even though Jay's never heard of him because he doesn't do any research ever on any topic. He's rookie receiver. He played for the Florida Gators. I think with Lockett's injury, he's had a couple games where he's had the deep ball thrown him. Russell Wilson trusts him throwing the deep ball, so if you can get a couple catches, maybe catch a long one for a touchdown, then he'll do pretty good.
He's like a deep sleeper, though.
Yeah, well,
like he hasn't woken up yet.
Well, that's when I think of a sleeper, I try to actually do a sleeper, Jay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Next week
I'm not hating
for you.
All right, so now we're going to go to our Call Your Shot segment. Basically, we play you like this week more than most and a boldest prediction about them. Basically, there's a little contest we have going with me and Jay where the winner gets to pick the other's Twitter avatar for the playoffs. I am currently winning 3-1, and you, my friend, are running out of time before you have Jay draw
playoffs. We need to do like 2 a week or something like that to give me a chance to catch up.
You could just pick better.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, my pick this week might not play. So if he is out, I'll tweet something out with a different choice. But it was going to be Deandre Swift is a top 5 running back in PPR leagues. I think if he's able to play, I think he's just going to go off on the Panthers.
Absolutely.
Cootie, who do you got?
As much as I talked him down earlier and I said that he might be just a fill-in for Michael Thomas, I'm hoping that Traquan Smith can get us, over 50 yards and at least a touchdown, especially against Atlanta. I'm just hoping we can do that.
Mm-hmm. I hope he does.
I can see that.
That'll help me keep my beard now. I'm going to go with
baby face Dan.
Yeah, it's really bad. I look like I'm 17 years old. I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb combined for over 40 PPR points. The Eagles' run defense is absolutely atrocious, and there's really no reason to pass on them. So I think any pets at the backfield. We have no linebackers. I can put you out there, Jay, linebacker. You probably do better than what the Eagles have right now. So I think we're going to get curb stomped by both of them, and they're going to score 40 combined, over 40 combined.
Pretty good one. I like that one. Especially I have Nick Chubb in a lot of places, so I'd be fine with that.
So do I. All right, so we're wrapping up. There's something we do every week with the guests. We ask them to come on with an interesting thing that the fantasy community doesn't know about you. So, Cooter, what's the thing that we don't know about you?
May not be that interesting. Yeah, besides my name. It may not be that interesting, but I just thought that everyone probably thinks I'm really, really stupid by most of my posts. But I am trying to get my PhD currently, so I thought that might be interesting.
That is, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So you're going to change your handle to Dr. Cooter Doodle
when it happens, absolutely. So like a year from now, next season, hopefully that'll be the change.
What are you getting your PhD in?
It's called Applied Speech and Language Sciences, but it's basically like speech therapy.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely have to change that Twitter handle to Dr. Kudoodle.
Yep.
That would be fantastic.
All right, and for the last and the most important question, we have a debate: greatest of all time in basketball, Jordan or LeBron. Jordan pulled out to an early 7-1 lead, but we've had a couple guests that have made the wrong decision and picked LeBron the past couple of weeks. So, Cooter, who do you think is the greatest?
I mean, I know nothing about basketball, and to reiterate that, up until like 3 years ago, I thought March Madness was just like when finals were coming up at the end of the semester, and it was like March Madness. So I'll just have to go with the fact that it's got to be Jordan because he was amazing in Space Jam. I mean, he beat the Monstars, and so what are you going to do with that?
That is easily the best analysis of
the reason
LeBron versus LeBron debate we've had.
Just he defeated the Monstars is literally the
case.
On this
and they were down by a lot. I just want to bring that out.
You have to carry Bill Murray to a win.
That is the type of in-depth analysis you get on this show.
Absolutely. All right, so I think that's going to do it for the week. So thank you for joining us, Cooter. You did a fantastic job. You want to tell everyone how they can find you on Twitter?
I mean, if you're down for some silliness, just find me at Cooter Doodle on Twitter, and I will be there, not fulfilling any statistical analyses, but I'll be there for fun.
It's absolutely hilarious. Just about everything you tweet, it literally makes me laugh out loud. So it's breaks up some of the back and forth of people going at each other's throats on Twitter.
Well, good. And thank y'all for having me on here, by the way.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Jay, I wanted to tell people where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at GMenJ. I have an article for Sleeper Wire that comes out, starts and sits. I also do a 10 things to know about the current week for Going for Two. We got this show. We're actually next week we're doing on Tuesday because of Thanksgiving. We're going to push it up a few days. We're going to have the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Lambert on with us as well.
Why would you say that? He already has a big enough head as it is. Come on, man.
As well as Eric from Pros versus Joes. We're going to do a kind of a Thanksgiving special. They both got charities to talk about, so we're going to discuss that. And thanks, Gladys. We appreciate you. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at EagleDanFF. I write my rookies to own for the week for Going for Two. And I do the show every Thursday with that gentleman over there who, even though I might make fun of him for his absolutely horrendous takes, he actually is a really good dude, and you should read what he writes because he knows his stuff. Thank you so much, Cooter Doodle, for coming on. We're so happy that you chose us for your debut podcast. You're a great host, and I hope everyone has a – go ahead. Sorry.
Real quick, I always try to say it. If you have anybody that's playing tonight, get them out of your flex spot. Put them in running back, wide receiver, whatever it is, especially this year with COVID where guys can be, Saturday or Sunday morning, you can find out they're not playing. You want that extra little bit of flexibility.
Absolutely. Great point. All right, everyone, have a good week and enjoy Thursday Night Football. Go Seahawks.